Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Our Boys, episode 8. It is called, episode 9, I had the wrong number there, that's my bad. Episode 9, The Perfumer and the Tanner. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, I was expecting almost all court stuff this episode, and that is not the case at all. The court stuff, we got a little bit more of it later on, but the initial scene ended quite quickly. By the time the title screen came up, we were already out the courtroom. We were already out of there. As was Hussein, of course, which is a big part that happens.
Yep, I think I was also expecting just nothing but courtroom stuff, and we got a lot more personal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still a lot of everything kind of centered around the courtroom, but this is mostly about the effects of Yosef and his decision to plead crazy.
To the insanity plea, he's sitting there, he's not responding. They hand him a mic at one point because he just mutters things to himself when they ask him a question. Do you understand the charges? Do you understand why you're here? Yada, yada, yada. And Foxy. Sneezing in the background there, or heaving, more of a heave.
Just a dry heave. She's okay. Which I hope, because she's on my pillow. You okay, girl? Yeah, she's all right.
The tension.
I got the thumbs up.
You got the thumbs up, yeah. Foxy's a good dog. Foxy will give you the thumbs up, let you know everything's okay. So now Hussein ends up leaving in a rage because he starts arguing with everyone in the room because he's like, no, this guy, this Yosef, he's faking this. He's faking this insanity nonsense. He's just pretending. And we are fairly positive that he's right. We're on his side.
I mean, it's important to know that Hussein's never seen this guy before either. So it's not like us where we know that he's not actually insane because we've seen him in the previous episodes. Hussein has seen him for the first time. It's like, okay, this is clearly an act, right?
Yeah.
No one's believing this, right?
Even he's too.
If you guys believe this, then why the hell am I even here?
Even his two protege, as soon as they start talking about his insanity, and as soon as Yosef starts responding the way he does, the two of them will look like, what's he doing? What's he doing?
Yeah.
What's happening? They are just he's not like this at all. We've never seen him like this. And they can try and tell us.
The two minors are in the cell together. So they have been separated from Yosef for presumably a while, long enough to know that he's different. He's not acting himself.
So he creates a lot of problems here where we know this is going to be a problem for Avishai's case. We heard that last episode, and that's kind of reiterated this time, especially when the rabbi, again, makes decisions to bring in more therapists. Because one of the problems they're having in this episode is that no therapist in the country will tackle the case. And of course, the criticism here is that the reason why they don't want to tackle it is because, and this is what Segel, the therapist, says, she is like, the reason why no therapist wants to take this is because every single one of us will agree that he's faking and that he's not actually crazy. Because they bring her in and they almost try and intimidate her. There's do you know what this scene feels like? It's her and her husband to come in, and this head rabbi's there and this other sort of dude who I'm going to refer to as the muscle, because this scene played out like...
The muscle rabbi?
Yeah, it played out like a scene in a mafia movie where the muscle sort of leans in and it's almost very threatening, oh, you sure? And we even see the fallout of her refusing to do this. We see her clients start refusing to come in. Her assistant quits her job. Everyone's kind of blacklisting her in the community because of this. Which obviously,
and her one client who's just like, you've helped me so much, and he's just apologizing, but he says, he's just there to pay his bill.
Clearly not his choice. This was clearly his parents or whoever telling him that he has to, stop going. So, but you can tell the genuine sort of side of it where he's like, no, you helped me. I really appreciate everything you've done for me, but I can't come anymore. And this obviously ties in as well to Simon's plot, who is also being treated poorly by everyone around him. He goes to, Ben David, the rabbi, the grandfather, to asks for help with his brother about sort of forgiving him because it's causing a lot of tension in the family. And the end of the episode, of course, we find out that he has graffiti all over his wall when he comes outside saying, "Oh, this Simon, this Shimon from from the agency is here. He lives
Mm-hmm.
here. He's a traitor, and I felt like Simon was the character in this episode that I more than anyone felt sympathy for, because everyone is treating him like he's this traitor, like, oh, you hunt Jews, like that's kind of like, you hunt your own kind of thing, and the whole time, and maybe this is because I'm like not part of this culture, but also on top of that, not part of a religion of any kind, not part of anything. I'm like, why do you care? Like, they killed someone.
If someone's a killer, then they're killers. Like, it doesn't matter what their religion is.
Why would you align yourself with people you already know are guilty of this?
That's the thing, right? It's almost like it's shameful for anybody to accuse a Jew of anything in their culture, because it's just like anything an attack on one Jew is attack on all of them. But they have to realize that, I mean, nobody is saying that this behavior is okay. Everyone thinks that that Muhammad should still be alive.
Yeah, the wording that I was really picking up in this, that was really sticking out to me, it sounded a lot like a couple of things. It sounded like when a company doesn't want a scandal to get out, so they'll just bury it within. They want to do that, right? So they're mad for the whistleblower, which in this case is kind of Simon, right? So they're looking at the Jewish community of Israel as that, and then even the way that they kind of want to like brush it away, it's like, okay, yeah, this is
Right.
awful what he did, but we both agree it's a rare case. It sounded a lot like a sexual assault. It sounded a lot like whenever a judge par's like, oh, this kid's a good kid. He made one mistake, but we should let him. Like, no.
Or like the Catholic Church and their cover up of pedophilia that's been going on.
Oh yeah. Who could forget? I don't
like Spotlight. It was like watching Spotlight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's this cover
I think
up.
the scene is still the scene with the psychiatrist and the muscle that you referred to. I think that's what he was saying. Like, look, don't think of it as an attack on any one individual, but think of how this will look to the entire world who will be watching this trial. And how it's going to look for our religion.
I'm going to drop a hot take. If you really believe the stuff you're peddling about your religion, whatever it may be, in this case it's Judaism, but whatever, right? If you're more concerned with protecting the reputation of your religion than actually upholding the values that you claim to preach, then your religion and your community is already flawed, and you're already failing to do what you're saying.
Hot take.
I'm accusing these characters of it, and a lot of other people too, really. I'm not going to start naming names, but...
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a bit of a, when you love something so much and something can't be flawed, otherwise it's all of a sudden you have to defend a lot more the thing that you love, and it can be, confusing to your followers, and that's not something that I think anyone there is prepared to do. So it's
the way Simon's treating this episode made me feel sick. I'm like, he did his job, and they keep trying.
Yeah, you're right, and it's not easy for him to say these things about Avishai. I mean, we can see it, although nobody else can. I think one of the details that we haven't mentioned is, even though he's in the courtroom scene, nobody can see who he is because he's still technically protected.
There's it's like a medical curtain kind of around him at the bench.
And they're showing the video of the reenactment, but he's been blurred out still, so nobody knows who he is. They know, so it's a big deal that that somebody has pointed out where he lives, because a lot of people watching will be like, you're a bad guy for hunting Jews. So they called him a Jew hunter in the episode.
He's a murderer hunter. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
I will say it a million times. I really I get really angry in this episode for the sake of Simon, because everything was just coming at him from every side about how he's the villain now because he did his job properly. And I'm like, no, these people should go to prison. They should be tried. There should be no bullshit insanity plea. And of course, where that goes in the episode is that because no one in Israel will see him, as a therapist, they fly in a Jewish person from America to come in. And he can't even speak, Hebrew or whatever. He comes in, need a translator, and then the lawyer ends up doing the translation for him.
Yeah, because the translator who was supposed to be there conveniently didn't show up. But that's okay, because this lawyer also speaks Hebrew and English pretty well. So he could just translate for him, which is pretty gross.
Mm-hmm.
I think the American lawyer probably should have been a little bit more adamant that they wait for a translator. It would only take another hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a therapist. She said lawyer there.
Oh yeah, excuse me, American therapist.
Yeah, but so here's a detail that I love. They go in to see Yosef, and he comes in and he's just sitting there blankly, not saying anything. And the therapist is saying, "Hey, can you tell me these details? Can you say this? Can you say that?" And he just sits there blankly, even after the lawyer translates. And he's like, "Well, I can't help him if he's not going to speak to us at all." And he hangs up the phone and stands up. And I think it's very notable that Yosef immediately starts talking and sort of hits the glass and asks him to wait. And I'm like, yeah, if he was really insane, he seems to be cognizant of the fact that he knows that now he has to speak up, because that not speaking was going to get him no help. He seems to be aware that he has to get the testimony of this doctor in court for his insanity plea to work. So all of a sudden, it's just like he breaks character for a second because he knows he needs to. It's like he's laying it on too thick. He's like, oh, I need to break character, shit, or the guy's going to leave. I need him to testify. Oh dear.
Although there is a moment when he's talking where he kind of sounds like he's making an admission to what happened, but his lawyer isn't translating everything.
Yeah, his lawyer's been very selective. Yeah. And I was actually sitting thinking, like, I mean, is this therapist even going to believe, like, is he going to turn around and say, no, actually, this guy's
well,
faking
I mean, they did say that they're compensating him quite well for his,
Well, the question then is, it's not one that he believes, does he have the morals to stand by what he actually believes?
I think it's still it seems like he did have some morals when he was ready to walk out and be like, well, forget this then, just fly me home. But I think maybe he just needs to have enough to work with in order to justify the insanity plea. I mean, if he doesn't speak the language, then how can he really get the intent through what he's saying? Like, I mean, we do a decent job trying to, because we don't speak the language either when we're reading subtitles, and we can tell by the acting, because the acting is good. But who knows, like, maybe there's probably a lot that we're still not getting through because we just don't know. There's a barrier there.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I've spoken about this before, but the art of localization with subtitles is a bit of an art form in and of itself, because you have to not just translate the core meaning of what they're saying, but sometimes, this is the example I always use, is that if let's say they crack a little joke with a saying that they have in their language that we don't have in English, right? Let's say there's something like the phrase "out of left field," right? Where they've got their own saying for that. That doesn't reference like baseball. It references something we could never think of because we just don't have it. We don't have words for these things in our language. So the translator has to look at that and go, well, this means that something came out of nowhere. Right? It was a surprise that came out from the side. But that's not the exact thing they say. But the expression that we might use that has the same meaning is out of left field, even though the words that they're actually saying aren't remotely those words. But that's what the intent is. That's what
you say that, but we've sort of been getting that a lot of allegories in this whole show about from the Torah or wherever it comes from, like the judging by its end and
from the Torah, sure. But I'm talking about just turns of phrase that people use in conversation. Sure. Normal things, and that's something that not just in the show, just in general, when you're translating stuff into subtitles or whatever, like you have to account for. And so I think we do a lot better than what a translator would, in the sense that not that we're the ones translating, but in the sense that I think sitting in a room with a person and having a translator translate things after what they say, you have no idea how accurate they're being. You have no idea the nuance of some of the things they're saying.
Trust them. And I suppose, why would you trust somebody whose job it is to make sure that they come off crazy?
And some wise asses could say, well, you have to trust the subtitles when you're watching. I was like, yeah, but like that's the finished product. I can only judge it by what we're getting given.
Are you saying you could only judge it by its end?
Very good. Very, very witty. Tower's got jokes, everyone. So, yeah, Hussein's plot, though, in this episode. So he storms out of the court. In this episode, he meets up with it's like the head of a martyr group. This group run by people who are related to martyrs who have passed on, and he's like very vocal about why are you going to this court, why are you going with them, and showing up there, and he's very adamant that it's something that he should do, and of course he storms out, and then he's really doubting, and he's saying to his wife throughout the episode that I don't know why I ever thought I should go, I shouldn't go, it's the whole thing's a sham, it's the whole thing's this, and I actually got the impression bizarrely that maybe what's going to happen, and I could be completely wrong here, that she might actually change her mind and convince them that they should go.
She seems to have a lot of doubt in
Yeah,
her mind.
there was a look in her
I think a lot of
face.
it was also during the martyr scene when he was talking, whoever this guy was who's in charge of this committee, or who decides who becomes a martyr, and they want Muhammad to be one now, and he was always walking with Hussein and never the mother, even though she's the one. We haven't really heard her speak very much, and she started to speak up a bit about what Muhammad was into, like his hobbies and such, and she kind of gets ignored, and he's just talking to Hussein the whole time and ignoring what she's saying. And right after that, we get the scene with the psychiatrist, and she's with her, I guess, husband, who's basically just there for emotional support for his wife. And
But they end up
even
talking
still,
to
the muscle doesn't ever talk to her. He only talks to her husband the entire time.
They start ignoring her and just talking to him. Yeah, I think it's a
Yeah,
combination.
even when she starts speaking up, like you could see like the muscle rabbi
Yeah,
kind of like look at her like he's about to begin a sentence and talk to her, but he still just looks right back at
I think
her husband and just
the motivation here is a combination between this feeling that's now coming in here where she's not feeling heard about her own son, but also I think the time that has passed, because obviously at first she was too distraught, she couldn't handle anything, she had to lock herself away. I almost feel like she almost, by being ignored in scenes like that and feeling that she wants to be heard, is almost going to what motivates her into wanting to be in that courtroom, saying, no, we need to be seen and heard in that room.
yeah,
and I feel like she's going to actually end up talking him into going back, and like they're going to go together.
I think so too.
Which is notable that also none of Yosef's family are there, because we hear Ben Davis like, no, we can't have this, like, be a stain on our family name, so none of us are going. I warned all the family to stay away.
Yeah, they're not there out of shame.
Yeah. So, like, I think there's an interesting motivation piece there, where like is he going to end up going back with her? Is Suha going to be the one who says, no, we should go back, we should be there and represent our community, represent us, because this is not their martyr, this is our son, this is our, not martyr, but like, this is our loss. And of course but he's mad at one point as well, because this society in Israel put his name up on a wall of martyrs, most of whom are Jewish. This is like not something he's been asked, although Suha does reveal there was a phone call that she didn't quite understand because it was in Hebrew, and she heard social services and assumed it was like a money thing and just hung up. But it turned out that maybe they were phoning to like either get approval or at least inform them of that this was happening, because we see kind of on the news that he's given this plaque, and he's like, oh,
and they're getting this monthly stipend because he is a victim of terrorism. Their families are victims of terrorism. They get some kind of monthly stipend now.
Yeah, and he doesn't. Obviously, they don't want any money, but that does lead us nicely back into the Simon scene in court, where the lawyer tries to kind of trip him up and say, why is this terrorism? He's not part of a group. He's not got this ideology. And Simon gives this great little speech about the definition of terrorism. And he's like, yeah, like once upon a time, terrorism was thought of as just, there's a group, there's an ideology, there's extremists. Terrorism now is morphed. It's different. It can be one person. It can be someone who wakes up one morning and just decides to do something, and by the end of the day, they're a terrorist. And that feels very relevant, not just for this country and this story, but just in general. The idea of what terrorism is. But it doesn't change the fact that the motivations for the crime were still based in some form of ideology. It was still based on this idea of revenge and what it was. This wasn't a murder of someone he knew because there was a falling out and they got angry. This wasn't some personal vendetta. This was, no, we have to strike back at someone from this group of people because we feel a statement needs to be made, kind of thing. So that was a very poignant scene. Simon having to kind of like sort of give this definition as the lawyers clearly try to use it as a way of saying like, hey, this isn't really a terrorist, and says like, no, it is. This is why it's a terrorist.
And this is Avishay's lawyer. He has a separate lawyer.
Yeah.
Who has been hired to try to make it seem like Avishai didn't commit murder, and it's pretty difficult to watch also for both Simon and for Avishai, because we know that Simon is sympathetic towards him.
Yeah, there's a scene in this episode where he's with the prosecutor and they're talking about the case, and he says, well, two of them definitely need to be convicted, but what about Avishai? Like, do you think he should be put for life? You know, away for life was the exact phrase. Like, okay, these two should definitely be put away for life, but what about Avishai? He seems a bit more... And he's like, "Were you kidding? Like, you got him on tape saying that he intended to kill." But Simon's still got this doubt. He's like, "Yeah, but like he's not quite there with them." But he's forced, basically, the lawyer, Avishai's lawyer, in the court, kind of backs him into a corner where he has to say that Avishai's a terrorist. Like, as Avishai right. This, and he's like, "Yes,"
because Avishai needs to. If Avishai can be redeemed in some way in this court, then maybe all three of them can. And he can't risk that.
Yeah. So it's a really powerful little moment, and probably the dramatic.
The betrayal in Avishai's eyes too, and his performance was so heartbreaking. Really, really well done. It was just because he was really counting on them finding Simon to defend him, and this statement made him realize he has nobody.
Except the informant dude who gets out and presumably leads the charge in spray painting Simon's house.
The informant who's also an extremist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Like, okay, looks, if everyone believes you're one of us, you're one of us. I love you. He says the words, I love you to him. Which for a boy who has nothing, like that would mean a lot.
Yeah, because he's like, no, you have us now, and he said a lot to him and gives him like a book, and it's very much him backing into this corner that he's been put in now, and it may be a sign that the system isn't perfect, and obviously we've seen it's not perfect, but at least even in this case, it's not perfect in the sense that there's no, because of the perception in the court, the idea of trying to imply one of them aren't as bad as the others is just a risk of all of them going free. So you have to just treat them as badly, even though that isn't necessarily the right thing to do, isn't necessarily the just thing to do. But because of the system, he has to be thrown at the wolves with everyone else. It was interesting to me that there's been no attempt to have the two younger guys like sort of testify against Joseph. Like, there's been no attempt for them to say, hey, if you two like get your story together, because obviously we have to fight with them in the cell where Avishai, at the behest of his lawyer, tries to get, I think Enon's his name, the other one, to admit that he said, don't kill him at one point. And he's like, I don't remember you saying that, no. And he immediately sort of gets, wait, is your lawyer asking me to say that?
I don't remember him saying it either from that episode, but maybe he did.
Yeah.
I just don't remember it. It does seem a little bit like right away Enon like sees what Avishai is trying to do, like you are not going to abandon me here. We were in this together.
Yeah.
What we did together, and you could have left and you didn't. So therefore, you're guilty.
And he's got a point. He's not pointless in that statement. Like you could have tried to stop us, and obviously there's reasons why he didn't.
Yeah, he's letting them know you're not getting out of this. You are a part of what we did, and it's one of those things. If I go down, you're going down with me.
Had he tried to like stop them, and they threatened him and scared him into not fighting back, then he could make the statement, no, okay, they threatened my life and I was too scared to fight. And even though we get the impression that Avishai was scared, there was never actually any resistance against them if he did try and stop them. There was never a point where he tried to actively do something where then it got scary because then they react and said, "Hey, we'll kill you too if you," or whatever.
Well, but I can see how the other two were just like, we know we're going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And this is the right thing to do. And Avishai is just along for the ride because he thinks that they're just gonna do something for revenge. Maybe kill, but that would be more of like a extreme thing that they would probably not do. More just like kidnap and scare somebody. I think maybe he didn't really fully understand the full scope of from what the show has shown us anyway. I don't really know about the real event. And that Avishai was just like caught up in the mob of it and not really realizing the consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
no, like,
but like the other two clearly are like, yeah, we want to murder someone.
Yeah, no, that was pretty clear in those episodes.
Because they tried at least once before.
Yeah, that's why the detail that's brought up is that the other kid was there the night before, and they brought in Avishai because two of us isn't enough. We need a third person, kind of thing.
And Avishai is a bit more malleable. Like they can convince him that this is the thing to do.
But I think the big thing in there, and when it comes to Yosef, is this idea that he tried this. This is the second time he tried it. Like he had a failed attempt once before, and he came back to do it again. That feels more planned and thought out than, just insanity. Again, that's another reason to suspect that he's faking this.
It's not something motivated just in an impulse.
Yeah.
Passion of the moment,
because that's one of the things the lawyer wants Avishai to get, is to get the other kid to admit that he was there the night before and it was Yosef that was there. Because if he did it twice, then Yosef's the one who, not the only one, but he's then proven to this is something he was trying multiple times. This was so it was a solid episode. I think the human drama of it is still sort of coming through very nicely. And the intricacies of the court case and the impact that it's going to have on Simon is definitely kind of not a twist, but definitely a darker turn to his side of the story that kind of hurts. And I'm very curious to see how we wrap all this up and who goes down, and does anyone get remotely a happy ending? I'm skeptical.
I've been constantly impressed by this show, and I'm very curious about how things are going to wrap up in one episode. And I know a couple of episodes ago after the reenactment, we were like, where do we go from here? But I can't believe it's going to wrap up in one more episode, to be honest.
And the direction's been very tight. And it's worth mentioning, I'm looking at the list of the episode directors just now, and Joseph Sadar, who is kind of the main name, or one of the main names behind the show, has at least co-directed every episode, if not been the only director.
It seems pretty solid, pretty much one director, one vision, and
very consistent. And then the other names that are there with them seem to be the same 2 or 3 names that are rotating as well. So it's like there's a very consistent team with the one person kind of spearheading it. So that's very good. So I'm very excited about the finale and seeing how they wrap this up, and so that is episode 9 of Our Boys. We'll be back next week with the final episode of the show, of the limited series, so you can look forward to that. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, you can do that by rating us on the podcast app that you use to listen to this. Apple Podcasts being the most notable one. Give us a nice 5-star rating. Share us out on the Twitters or your social media option of choice. And of course, you can support us financially. Tara, how can people do that?
You can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MalfuzzTV. You can donate as little as $1 per month, and that dollar gets you bonus features of other shows that we do. We do outtakes now. They'll go up for patrons.
We do outtakes. That sounds weird. Like we intentionally do shitty bits that we can cut out.
No, it's just sometimes we tangent.
Yes.
And we realize, okay, this is sort of slowing down the show, so let's just put it for the patrons now.
Yeah,
so they get to have our conversation.
Once there's a tangent,
nothing to do with the show.
Once there's a tangent over 4 or 5 minutes, I'll just cut this out and put it on Patreon. That's the thing now. That's the thing. There's been some fun ones that have went up. Some fun ones. But yeah, so check out Patreon, check out other shows we're doing. Obviously, Watchmen's coming soon from HBO in a few weeks' time. Me and Tara will be doing that as well. Obviously, we're also doing the Righteous Gemstones right now, which has got a couple of episodes left. So check out those other shows that we are discussing, and look for other content that we have, such as our sci-fi movie podcast, Ace, or our horror movie podcast, Screams After Midnight, especially this month because it's October, and it's the October-thon, which means we're having episodes every single day.
That's impossible. Every day.
I dare to defy, baby. I dare to defy. We're hoping it's going to be every single day. There's a small chance that it might end up being like 29 episodes over 31 days, but we're doing our best. We're doing our best. We're going to hit it. We're going to hit that target. If I have to drag Tim through hell or high water to do it, we'll do it, damn it. But that has been Our Boys episode 9. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?